Hello everyone, my name's Dave. I'm here to give another example of the Queen's Gambit. This game was played on the ICC. It's a Blitz game. I'm playing white. The ECO code is D02. Some of the themes of the game will be creating a plan, weak squares, and an unprotected piece. So let's go ahead and start the game. Like I said, I'm playing white. I play D4, D5, knight to F3, knight to C6. This is called the Chiggern defense. Hope I pronounced that correctly. E3, A6. Black protects the B5 square from a bishop, possibly pinning the king. Play bishop to D3, bishop to G4. Here black does pin the knight to my queen. I play knight to D2 to protect my knight. E6. I play A3, same idea, keeping his bishop out of B4 from pinning my knight to my king. Knight to F6. C4. The game resembles the Queen's Gambit, except my knight is on D2 instead of C3, which would be normal for a normal Queen's Gambit, but kind of played it a little bit out of sequence here. Bishop to E7, Queen to B3. I attack his B7 pawn. One reason is because his bishop's been moved outside the pawn chain, which is a good move for black. Otherwise, it could possibly be entombed, being behind its pawns here. Black easily defends his pawn with rook to B8, I castle, black castles, and C5. I gain space on the queen side. This will be the side of the board that I plan to play on. That's the beginning of my plan. H6, knight to E1. I'm beginning to transfer a piece from my king side to the queen side where the action will be at. Queen to D7, knight to C2, bishop to D8. Black does the same thing, brings a piece over to help defend on the queen side. Knight to B4, putting a little more pressure on the queen side. Black exchanges, I retake with my queen. Bishop to E7. Black's kind of shuffling his pieces back and forth, kind of shows me that he doesn't quite have a good idea of how he wants to defend. I play knight to B3, and now he plays C6. Here this would normally be a weak square, this B6 square, if I could get a piece there, for example my knight. But in order to do so, I'd have to play this knight from B3 to D2, to B1, to C3, to A4, and then finally to B6. And by that time, black would have made 5 moves of itself, and most probably I'd be crushed by the time it got there. So potentially this would be a weak square if I could get a piece there, but in this case it is not. Knight to A5, I'm putting pressure on the B7 square, and black plays bishop to D8. Now here you can see this rook is not protected by any of black's pieces, and this would give a potential for a tactical maneuver in which I thought would work, but as you can see I made a error in judgment here. I played bishop to A6 thinking that black would cooperate and play B takes A6. I would take the rook and I would be up to exchange plus a pawn. But black did not cooperate. Going back to the original position here, black plays bishop takes A5. Kind of caught me off guard, but I continued with my idea here. Queen takes A5, B takes A6, and I retake with my queen. The exchanges are over, and white has 2 pawns for black's knight. But most importantly, I have the potential to create a passed pawn with my A and B pawns as I push them up the board here. After some exchanges, possibly I could even have a passed B and C pawn, but we'll see how the game plays out. Black plays queen to B7, wanting to exchange queens. I don't want to do that. I drop the queen back. Now black begins a plan here. He wants to exchange queens, and that's the only thing that he has on his mind. He starts to chase my queen all over the board, as you will see. Queen to B5, queen to C2, again queen to B3, queen to D2, bishop to F5, hopefully bringing the queen here to force the change. Queen to A5, queen to B5, queen to C7, queen to B7, queen to E5, and rook at F to C8. I see that black most probably wants to bring the queen to here, which will be fine. I'll be more than glad to exchange the queens, and you'll see why very shortly. But in the meantime, I continue my plan of pushing my pawns. So I played B4. He plays queen to c7, and this is an error, which you will see very shortly why I say this. I go ahead and exchange the queens, and now you can see that I have the idea of bringing this bishop to f4, skewering both of his rooks. And in order to do this, all I need to do is push this e-pawn, attacking his bishop. He takes the pawn with his bishop, and now I've got the move in that I wanted, bishop to f4, skewering his two rooks. Black decides to take the pawn with his rook. I retake, and he plays rook to b7, attacking my b4 pawn. The best place to defend the pawn, especially if it's potentially passed, is to have a rook behind it. And this rook at f would be perfect if I could play it to b1, but you can see that the bishop defends that key square. So I defend the pawn from the side. He plays bishop to d3, and I play rook to d1, which is really a wasted move because I need this rook here. And he plays bishop to c4, and I move my rook there anyway. So in effect, I have really lost one move. Bishop to b5, rook to a8, check, king to h7, rook at 1 to a7, attacking the rook. If he decides to move the rook, I would win the b7 pawn and increase my advantage. He goes ahead and exchanges rooks, plays king to g8 to protect this pawn. I play f3 to keep the knight out of these two squares. It's a defensive move. Plays knight to h5. I play bishop to e3, and he moves his knight back. I play rook to b7 with possibly an idea of capturing this bishop. He would retake and possibly then pushing this pawn forward. I would need a little bit of preparation work to get this done, and we'll see how it goes. King to f8, bishop to f4, with the idea of bringing my bishop to e5, exchanging the knight, and then, like I said, make this exchange and possibly pushing the pawn forward. Plays king to e8. Now the king is really too close to the pawn to make that original plan successful. I go ahead and make a check. He plays king to e7. I play bishop to d6, check. King to d7, bringing this king to the queen side where I have my biggest advantage. I play rook to b7. He has to bring his king back to protect his pawn. I give check again. He plays king to d8. I take rook takes f7. He plays knight to protect to the g7 pawn, and I play bishop to e5. And he can see that I will soon take his g pawn and eventually his h pawn, and then I could very easily push this h pawn up for a queen. And also, one last thing I want you to notice is how this here played very little, had very little control over the game whatsoever for black. He almost was playing without this piece the entire game. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed, and take care, and thanks again. Have a good day.